evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Facebook, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. As always, I am Bryson Carver. You see me, I got my terrible towel on, man. I'm feeling good today. The Steelers are 4-2, scored 30 points, which I did not think the defense, at least up until yesterday when Pittsburgh took over Allegiant Stadium in Sin City yesterday. Later in the show. We got a lot to discuss today, though, on Carving Up. Okay, so Caleb Williams has an unbelievable performance yesterday against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Get to his performance in about 10 to 12 minutes. Also, Nick Sirianni got more, let's call them histrionics on the sideline, and he ain't coaching the Eagles next year. I think yesterday all but sealed it. Get to that in about 20 minutes, 25 minutes or so. Getting into as well why yesterday's win for the Cincinnati Bengals over the New York Giants was huge. It was gigantic. It was season-saving, especially with what they have moving forward. Get to that. Week 6 recap around the National Football League, and at the end of today's show, predictions for tonight's matchup. Big game in the AFC East. The winner is in first place. The New York Jets and the Buffalo Bills from MetLife Stadium. Excited to get to that game at the end of today's show. So I'll take this terrible towel off for the moment. Put it on, once we get to the Week 6 recap, because I was very, very impressed by my Steelers. So excited to get into that. But let's get into America's team. But first, Detroit destroyed Dallas yesterday. I mean, you could say it a million different ways. You could say they destroyed them, they mollywopped them, they kicked them, punched them, rolled them, however you want to phrase it. Or maybe this is the best way to put it.
Kneecap.
Yeah, kneecaps were handed out in Dallas, Texas yesterday, with the Lions winning by a final score of 47-9. So I'll get to Detroit later in the segment because they were obviously my pick to win the NFC this year, and I've been high on the Detroit Lions for years on the show. Lions fans know that. Shout out to Detroit Lions fan base. They got great fans. But I want to talk about Dallas and really Detroit and the comparison between the two, because obviously goes out saying Detroit Lions are way better than Dallas. But I want to tell you a little quick story in the NFL. An NFL story. Let's go back about 4 years. 4 years till the end of the 2021 seasons. This would have been like very early into 2021, 3.5, 4 years ago. Let's go back to that time, right? What were the Lions and what were the Cowboys? What had they done as franchises? Well, we could show you between 2011 and 2020. We could show you the numbers right here. Alfred Parsons Jr. put together this fantastic graphic. So the Lions won about 44% of their games, more like 45 if you round up. Cowboys won about 54% of their games if you round up. But both teams made the playoffs 3 times. Both teams did not make a single NFC Championship game. And if you think about the 2020 season, at the end of that year, you think about a Detroit Lions team that was, hadn't gone to the playoffs in multiple years in a row. Had a quarterback that was really talented, but a lot of folks, by the way, myself included at the time, were like, yeah, he's great, but he can't win the big game. And a coach who his entire reputation was staked on the back of a legend, or at least being associated with the legend, Matt Patricia with Tom Brady. That was Dallas. Same situation. No winning history, at least recently, just like the Detroit Lions. An outdated coach like Matt Patricia and Mike McCarthy, whose entire legacy is tied to the back of a legend, Aaron Rodgers. And as for Dak Prescott, I think he's phenomenal. Yesterday notwithstanding, yikes. Can't defend Dak today. QBR of 11, can't defend him today. But Dak Prescott, by and large, has been extremely productive throughout the course of his career, despite having nothing around him the last few years. But a lot of folks are like, yep, but he can't win the big game. A lot of similarities. But, they took very, very different directions after that 2020 season. Dallas, being the stubborn organization that they are, by the rum of the stubborn owner / general manager that they have, said, hey, nothing wrong here. GM, who, by the way, celebrated his 82nd birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Jerry Jones. Kind of deserved the birthday present he got, but that's neither here nor there. We're going to keep the owner running things. We're going to keep the outdated head coach, who we know his legacy is tied to Aaron Rodgers and only Aaron Rodgers throughout the course of looks like we're dealing with technical issues. I apologize for that. You brought us from irrelevance to respectable. Detroit was fine. Detroit's an okay franchise. Detroit said, no, we're going to rebuild this thing from the ground up. We're going to hire Brad Holmes for the Los Angeles Rams. We're going to put together this trade, send Matthew Stafford to the Los Angeles Rams, get a boatload in return, and we've cashed in on almost all those picks. And, of course, we're going to hire probably the single best motivational head coach up there with Mike Tomlin of my Steelers, only guy in this guy's category in terms of having his guys ready to play every single Sunday. And what Dan Campbell's also going to do, because Dan Campbell's going to have his guys ready to play, but he's also going to put together a great staff. Aaron Glenn running the defense. Ben Johnson running the offense. The entire Lions organization is simpatico. They're on the same page at all times. They know what they want to do every single day of the week, particularly on Sundays or whenever they play. Mondays, Saturdays, Thursdays, doesn't matter. Both the Cowboys and the Lions were in the same spot after the 2020 season. And they went in completely different directions. The Lions said, you know what? We're going to let the football people run things. We're going to hire a coach who's going to get the best out of our talent, whatever talent we may have, because in 2021, the Lions weren't very talented. They won 3 games. But remember that 2021 season? Boy, did they not fight their guts out till the end of every single game, till that clock hit 000. We could show you what the Lions have done in the draft since 2021. I decided to put together the 8 best draft picks for the Detroit Lions since 2021. So can we go and put that up there? Really good players. Penei Sewell, best right tackle in football. Amon-Ra St. Brown, top 10 receiver. Aiden Hutchinson, God bless him, biggest injury yesterday. I'll get to the kind of his future and what the Lions need to do after I talk about. Jamison Williams is a guy who could obviously spread, who could make the defense pay attention to a guy who could beat you over the top. Kirby Joseph, Pro Football Focus, loves this guy. Jahmyr Gibbs, Alvin Kamara 2.0, to a lesser degree. Alvin Kamara was a great player in his prime. Jahmyr Gibbs can certainly be that. Sam Laporta, great tight end, caught a touchdown on a double flea flicker yesterday. And Brian Branch, who had not 1 but 2 picks off Dak Prescott. So the Lions, safe to say, under Brad Holmes, have aced the draft. Now let's look at Dallas with the owner as the general manager. This is their 8 best picks. Micah Parsons, hit on that one. I got my criticisms of Micah, but it was not a bad pick by Dallas. Oso Odighizuwa, pretty good defensive tackle. Tyler Smith, depends on the Sunday. Can be really good. Can be Jalen Tolbert is a 4 or a 5. If he played for the Green Bay Packers, I'm not sure he'd make the team with how deep their wide receiving core is. Jake Ferguson, good tight end. He's good. He's nothing special. He's not bad. He's not great. He's good. Deron Bland, ball hawk, but gets burnt over the top a lot. Damone Clark, DeMarvion Overshown, he's pretty good. He's fast and stuff, and that's what Jerry Jones and the Cowboys have done in the draft since 2021. It was a crossroads moment for both the Cowboys and the Lions after the 2020 season. One decided we're going to bring the best of the best minds within our organization, in the front office, and on the coaching staff, and we're going to put together a winner. We're going to put together a team that's capable of winning the Super Bowl. Last year could have easily gotten there, if not for understandable lack of trust in their kicker, let's put it that way, and atrocious defense all season long. Meanwhile, Dallas with the owner who's stubborn, egomaniacal, and just wants the credit for any amount of success that Dallas has. That big Thanksgiving Day win. It's knocking our socks off. Jerry Jones on the future of Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys. This was Jerry yesterday.
What would it take you to evaluate making a head coaching change in season?
I haven't even considered that. I'm not considering that. Just so you're clear, I'm not considering that.
But you've done it
I wouldn't be a hypothetical in that matter. Do you think I'm an idiot? Do you? Okay, well, I'm not going to hypothetical with you about when I'd consider coaching change in light of the timing we're sitting here with. I'm not at all.
Listen, I don't think the Cowboys need to fire McCarthy now because, frankly, who's his heir apparent going to be? At least for this season. Mike Zimmer, does that defense look good? That's who you're going to replace him with? I mean, like the Cowboys don't because their coaching staff, I mean, you compare if Dan Campbell's not getting fired anytime soon. He's one of the best coaches in the league. But say Dan Campbell it was a disaster and they moved on. They could go Ben Johnson, who's going to be a head coach next year. They could go Aaron Glenn, who's, as the weeks have gone by, Detroit's defense gotten a little bit better week to week. Certainly held Dallas to 9 points at home. Dallas's coaching staff simply does not have that kind of depth. More than anything, though, because Jerry also said in his press conferences that he does on a weekly basis as if he's a coach or a player. Well, he's the GM. Yeah, GMs don't really do press conferences at all. Like John Lynch will do a couple of radio interviews throughout the course of the week. John Lynch ain't doing post-game interviews like Kyle Shanahan, Brock Purdy, George Kittle, and the rest of the Niners. I mean, that's not how they do business, because San Francisco is a football first organization, like the Lions are, like the Steelers are, like the Chiefs are, like the Ravens are. We can go on and on and on, which Dallas, of course, is not. Dallas at a crossroads even after this past 2023 season. Best offensive league, Dak nearly wins MVP. The defense is great. CeeDee Lamb has a career season, and they get hammered. One could say at this point, maybe broken by the Green Bay Packers. If you look at Dallas in their last 4 home games, going back to that, going back to that Green Bay game, you know what the average halftime score for the Cowboys in their last 4 home games has been? 28-9 at home. Now, you can say they're 3-0 on the road, but those wins are against Deshaun Watson, Daniel Jones. Love him, but not Daniel Jones. I love Justin Fields. That's it. The home games have come against Derek Carr and Lamar Jackson and Jared Goff. The home losses for Dallas, at least, have come to those guys. Jerry had a decision to make. Either with a third consecutive disappointing playoff loss, he could have said, you know what? I can't go any further with this team. Dak Prescott's going to be a free agent after this next season. So is CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons as well a year after that. It's just not working. McCarthy's got 1 year left of his deal. Let's just go ahead and move on and blow this thing to smithereens like the Lions did. Maybe he could have, hired an actual GM in the process. There's an idea. Going out on a limb here, folks. He could have done that, or he could have said, well, I've seen signs. Dak was amazing last year. So was CeeDee Lamb. Offense after that, was not good whatsoever. Maybe if we make a few more tweaks, add a few more pieces, maybe we can be a contender. Instead, he sat on his hands, let Tyron Smith walk out the back door, let Tyler Biadasz walk out the back door, let a number of guys who were productive for the Cowboys said, we don't have the money. Derrick Henry openly campaigned to go to Dallas. They said, we don't have enough money to pay him. Oh, it's funny. Derrick Henry's first in literally every single category that matters for running backs. This is a clown organization run by an egomaniacal owner whose primary goal and objective in Dallas is not to win, but to win with him getting the credit while simultaneously getting the best ratings and being able to be the topic of conversation around the National Football League. That's Jerry's goal. It's not to win football games. Never has been. At least in the last 30 years, it hasn't been. Since the day he fired Jimmy Johnson, hasn't been then. Poorly run franchise. This is what Dallas does. They're not a well-constructed roster. Said that from the jump. I only picked Dallas to make the playoffs because I was like, hey, I guess they're not that much worse than last year. And Dak and C. It's not going to work long term for this team. They're nowhere near a Super Bowl contender. That goes without saying. So they're a disaster. Before we get to Detroit, Jeff, LMFAO Jerry doesn't care about getting a better coach. He just likes McCarthy because he can control him. Precisely, Jeff. Just like he could control Garrett and Shane Gailey and Wade Phillips. Dallas could have been the Patriots before the Patriots. They could have been the Chiefs before the Chiefs. And instead, they told a Hall of Fame coach, Jimmy Johnson, who'd won back-to-back Super Bowl titles and was the architect of one of the most dominant rosters in the history of the National Football League. Yeah, you're going to have to go. Like I said, can you imagine if the Chiefs won this past year's Super Bowl? And you see it, and then sometime later during the offseason, you see the Hunt family, you see Brett Veach, and you see Andy Reid all sitting there in their suits. We've decided to terminate our contract with Andy Reid. We'd be like, the NFL world will turn upside down. But that's Jerry. He's the only guy that would make that decision. And because of that, it's indicative of the decisions he made since then. He's not a maverick. He's not a deal maker like he tries to let on. He's a bad GM who has no idea what he's doing whatsoever when it comes to anything football related. Now, ratings and business-wise, Jerry's the best in the game. It's not even close When it comes to, and I don't mean that as a shot. I mean that genuinely. The job of an owner is to hire the right people and to be able to market your product, market your franchise to the best of your ability. Well, Jerry hasn't hired the best people, so not great. But in terms of marketing the Cowboys, I mean, my God, he's better than anybody in sports or in the world. Dallas, the most valuable sports franchise in the world. Unbelievable. I mean, it's unbelievable. This is indicative of what Dallas is going to be. Now, for Detroit, let's talk about the good team. Let's talk about the team that's actually going to do something this season. So I said I obviously picked them to go to the Super Bowl before this year. Duh, I feel great about that yesterday. Get to the Hutchinson stuff, the Aiden Hutchinson injury. It's just gut-wrenching for the kid. I feel awful for him. They didn't show the replay on Fox, so I had to imagine it was gruesome. Saw it on Twitter, and it just makes your stomach turn. It was nasty. Get to him, though, a little bit later. For Detroit Lions, the Detroit Lions offense goes out saying we could show you the numbers and what the Lions offense has been this year. It's been nothing short of fantastic. That's 32 points per game. That's a 6. That should say first. I apologize. 32 points per game. It's not 6. It's first. 30 yards per game. 4th in pass yards per game. 4th in rush yards per game. And 7th on third in terms of third down percentage conversion rate. Jared Goff's been unbelievable. Had a pass rating over 150, so it was darn near perfect. Amon-Ra St. Brown was excellent. Sam Laporta, that was actually my preseason prediction. I said by season's end, and I think this is still on the table, Sam Laporta, I think, will be recognized as the best tight end in the league. Obviously, we know Kelsey, we know Kittle. Those guys are still fantastic. This kid is getting better by the game, and I think he's special player. What I love about this Lions team, though, and this is why I picked them to go to the Super Bowl before the season, is not just that they're talented on offense. It's not just because I thought their defense would be better. And again, the loss to Hutchinson is just devastating. It's that they've got a little sense of nastiness, a little edge to them that the best teams have. Do you notice what Detroit was doing all throughout that game? Throwing passes. I mean, offensive linemen. We're getting Penei Sewell, Decker, Skipper. All these guys were getting touches. They're throwing passes to offensive. They're running reverse plays for offensive linemen. Honest to God, I've never seen that in a football game at any level in my life. Why? Well, because a year ago, Detroit lost to Dallas on a very controversial play, 2-point conversion. There was a pass to, I believe it was to Decker. But there was I think they called an ineligible player downfield, or they said that Decker or Skipper hadn't reported as eligible. It was all this controversy. I'm still not quite sure what the call was or should have been. Detroit, though, remember that. Detroit, though, said, we remember that. It cost us playoff seeding. We're going to take it out on you for 60 minutes, and we're not going to let our foot off the effing gas pedal. And that's Dan Campbell. That's Ben Johnson. That's Aaron Glenn. That's this coaching staff. That's Brad Holmes, the general manager. That's the attitude that they have instilled in this franchise. We are going to, and this is why I've never played football in my life. I want to play football watching the Detroit Lions. Honest to God, like watching them play football makes me want to throw my body into this wall right now. I mean, it's something to see because they play their arses off till the final whistle, regardless of the score. And they're clever, and they're smart, and they have multiple ways to beat you offensively. They can beat you at the top. They can beat you in the running game. They can beat you in the screen game. They've got the best offensive line in the league. Now, they're not going to win every game 47-9, but they have that star power. They have that capability to drop 40-plus in your head at any given second. They lead the league in scoring. There's not much. And then, by the way, part of the reason I did pick Detroit to be able to make this run, I remember back in whether it was late January, early February, when it was announced that Ben Johnson was going to be coming back and not taking a head coaching job. And I'm like, oh, okay, they're in the NFC Championship game automatically. Health permitting, obviously, knock on wood. They're in the NFC title game like that. Now, Ben Johnson's coming back, the best OC in the league. I mean, I'm not a type of guy that's like, oh, they do it. Like, they do it the right way in the sense that there's multiple different ways to be successful as an athlete or as a collective, as a team. But God, there's a lot of ways that they can beat you. And that's scary for the rest of the NFC. Minnesota's great. They have a great defense. I'm sorry, I don't trust Sam Darnold. I don't in the long run. I saw signs against the Jets where it's like, I see the old Sam Darnold peeking through. San Francisco, I don't know. They're going to be healthy. And Detroit could have very easily beaten them a year ago. Green Bay, don't trust their defense in the long run. Chicago's too young. I mean, listen, there's a lot of teams out there that can give Detroit a run for their money that can beat Detroit, no question. Philadelphia's coaching staff, it's a mess. Washington's too young. I'm telling you, I'm not saying the Lions are just going to roll to the Super Bowl. They're not this juggernaut. They've lost a game this year to Tampa Bay. But I'm telling you, there's not much not to like about this team. There really, really isn't. Now, as far as the loss of Aiden Hutchinson, first of all, prayers for him because that is just brutal. And by the way, the fact that the injury came in a blowout it just makes it all the more painful for him, for the Detroit Lions. If I'm Brad Holmes, being the insanely great general manager that he is, I'm getting on the phone this week up until the trade deadline, up until the NFL says you can't call anybody. I'm placing a phone call to the Las Vegas Raiders and inquiring about the status of Max Crosby. I still, even despite that performance yesterday, they were great. 5 takeaways in the game, no touchdowns for Dallas, held them under 10 points. They couldn't have played better. I still don't totally trust this defense in the long run, especially without far and away the best player on their team. And by the way, one of the best defensive players, one of the 10 best defensive players in football, in Aiden Hutchinson. Does Max Crosby, you see Max Crosby? It's on the videos on Twitter where he's, shoving the coach for the Raiders coming off the field. I saw it. I was watching when they were playing my Steelers. I'm like, man, he's not looked thrilled to be there. Max Crosby's in the absolute apex prime of his career. He's not going to get a lot of opportunities to win in Vegas, especially in the division with Mahomes, with Herbert, with an ascending Denver Broncos, with Bo Nix and Sean Payton. The Raiders are kind of stuck in quicksand where they've been for quite some time. He's not winning there. If you're Detroit, you got to go get him. You got to go get him. Listen, Colin Cowherd has a great saying. I heard him say it years ago, and I think it's so true, is that the mark of a great football team is one that can make your quarterback comfortable, or their quarterback comfortable, and the opposing quarterback uncomfortable, which basically means, obviously, you've got to have that quarterback to begin with, which the Lions obviously do with Goff, but you got to be able to protect him. Check. Lions are the best O-line in the league, and you got to be able to make the opposing team's quarterback uncomfortable. Well, they did have that with Hutchinson, who I thought was the catalyst to help them beat the Los Angeles Rams in week 1, and it's helped them win a lot of games throughout his time in Detroit. What good does Max Crosby serve the Raiders right now? He's going to get a bunch of sacks, meaningless sacks in games that they trail and are going to win, are going to lose, 11 games a year? Max Crosby's too good to be playing for the Raiders. He needs to be playing for a winner. Detroit needs to make that move. I'm telling you, or at the very least, listen, if the Raiders don't want to do it, you can't control that. You could try and put together the best package you can possibly put together. If the Raiders don't want to do it, then they don't want to do it. But man, if I'm Detroit, I am going all out. I am selling the farm to get this guy because we've got a window right now. We've got the best offense in football. We've got Ben Johnson for one more year before he almost, in all certainty, will be a head coach next season. We gotta make sure we got our guy. We got to make sure we got to put ourselves in the best position, particularly in the defensive end where we have questions. Losing our best pass rusher / defensive player / defensive leader. I'm telling you, Max Crosby would do wonders for this Lions team. I mean, for any team, but this Lions team. And again, we'll see. We'll see if it doesn't work with Detroit's salary cap, again, they'll have to do some serious gymnastics there to make that work. But man, it's kind of like the Niners went and got McCaffrey. Now, again, that could be a different cap situation. But I remember everybody was like, oh, they've already got a good running game. They've got Elijah Mitchell. It's like, are you kidding me? This Christian McCaffrey. You got a window. You got an opportunity to go for it here. You go get Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, that's panned out. Hasn't won a Super Bowl, but it's certainly panned out. Same with Max Crosby with the Raiders and the Lions potential trade. I'm telling you, I think because what other great pass rusher that's even on the same planet as Aiden Hutchinson, what guy like that's going to be available? They're not. There's not. So there you go. I'm telling you, the Lions just fire me up watching them play football. I love it. Patrick Brown. He was a Cowboys fan. As a lifelong fan, I was prepared beyond this season. I'm not losing sleep or stressing. Winning is no longer the objective. Jerry likes the attention and thrives. There's the days I miss Troy and Michael and Charles Haley. What about Emmitt Smith? Those guys were leaders and not afraid to speak their minds. The current Cowboys have none of that. Well, they can't. I would argue they can't. What's Dak going to say? What's Micah going to say? CeeDee Lamb. I mean, Micah tries to talk, but often, talks himself into a real hole there. Players and coaches don't have power there. They just don't. Got an 82-year-old GM who's has no, I've heard Dan Orlovsky say today, has no pulse over his team. And I'd add to that, has no pulse over the league, what the NFL is today. They're outdated. Dallas is outdated. And when I hear, oh, Bill Belichick, I'm like, okay. I mean, he'll fix your defense. Belichick's going to fix your defense. But if we know one thing about Bill at the end of New England, he puts together some of the worst staffs in the NFL. So I don't think that'd work at all. I really, really don't. They could try it, have at it, but they're not winning a Super Bowl with that. Let's see what we got here. Jeff, Bryson, the Packers defense has been incredible this year. They had a game with 8 sacks, and McKinney, true, has had a pick in every single game. I agree with that, and I understand that, Jeff. And they had a pick 6 in I think Alexander had a pick 6 against Tennessee, which, it's Will Levis, of course. They were great against the Colts. I get that. Green Bay's defense has been excellent. I think they have as good a case as anybody to be a top 5, top 6 team in the league. And you can make the case, maybe, although I wouldn't agree with it, that they still might be the best team in what is far and away the best division of football, the NFC North. But come playoff time, man, that defense historically in the Rodgers era, even back to the Favre era, has not come to play. Will that change? By the way, the 1 year the Packers were able to do it, they won the darn Super Bowl in 2010. So it's kind of like Pittsburgh, right? You always trust the Pittsburgh Steelers defense come to play in big games. Offensively, kind of a coin flip. Jeff, the Max Crosby trade seems to be what everybody 100 out of 100 people think the Lions should trade for. Makes perfect sense, but just because of that and how the NFL works, I feel like it won't happen. The NFL is crazy. Again, maybe somebody in the comments is more aware of the salary cap structure and how that would work if the Lions can or can't make that move. But I know that they paid Jared Goff, they paid him on St. Brown. I think Penei Sewell might have gotten paid as well. As far as guys getting big deals, I think that's pretty much it. So I think they might be able to make it work. Maybe turn some contracts into signing bonuses. I don't know. Let's see. Patrick, because I saw he said something about Micah. Jerry World has turned into Scary World. Ooh, good bar. Teams don't care if the Cowboys are horrible. They don't fear any player or coach. Where front runners against bad teams, but fold against playoff caliber. Micah Parsons better prepares better for his podcast than playing football. Listen, I'm critical of Mike. You can't put that on him yesterday. He didn't play. The Niners will be healthy enough to beat us. I'm already calling it 2 weeks in advance. Nothing will surprise me. Well, San Francisco's going to mop Dallas. That is, because here's why I think. I often don't spoil my picks in advance. I think the Chiefs are going to beat the 49ers. Mahomes kind of owns San Francisco. Listen, I get that game's in San Francisco, but 2 years ago, the Chiefs, I get it, different teams. But smoke the Niners in that spot. They're not going to blow out San Francisco. I think the Chiefs will win that. The Niners are going to be sitting there at 3-4, pissed as hell. Dallas can be coming off the bye. We've gotten our problems fixed. Jerry's going to delude anybody that buys what he's selling, which I imagine at this point isn't very many people, and say, hey, it's good times in Dallas again. Who knows? They may even make a trade. They traded for Amari Cooper in this spot in 2018. They may make a trade in the next couple of weeks. Who knows? Maybe Devontae Adams will be a Cowboy. Who knows? And they're going to walk into San Francisco, and the Niners are going to mop the floor with those guys. May not be the 47-9. If it is, McCarthy may actually get fired if that happens. But we saw last time they played them. They're going to get smoked. They're going to get smoked by San Francisco. Last comment, then when we get to our next topic. Jeff, if I'm the Lions, whatever you do, I agree with this. Don't go after Reddick. He will kill the locker room, something the Lions have worked so hard to build. Yeah, I generally agree with that. Listen, the Reddick situation with the Jets, it's bad all the way around. He's handled it poorly. The Jets have handled it poorly. It's a mess. So I agree with you, Jeff. I wouldn't go try and dive into those waters. It's created an off feel. We've seen teams in the past that have made trades, and it just kind of not halts the momentum necessarily, but it doesn't work to materialize the way they hoped. And Jeff, okay, kudos to you, Jeff. He acknowledged, yes, Mahomes does kind of own the 49ers. Listen, that's what I mean. Maybe he'll stop on Sunday, but thus far, he's beaten him in 2 Super Bowls, for crying out loud. Let's transition to Caleb Williams. I'm old enough to remember, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. Bryson, national media. You overrated Caleb Williams. You said he was a generational talent. You said he is going to come in and shake up the NFL world. He, dare I say, might be Mahomes 2.0. Ooh, didn't look very good against Tennessee. Matter of fact, was terrible against the Titans. Team won in spite of him. Special teams and defense won that game against Will Levis and the Titans. Caleb Williams wasn't very good in that game. He struggled mightily. Large portions of that game, against the Houston Texans in week 2. He's solid against the Colts in week 3, but missed some deep balls. The connection with him and DJ Moore wasn't good. DJ Moore was kind of pissed off on the sideline. Caleb Williams, is he really that guy? Oh, yeah, gosh darn right he's that guy. Yeah, gosh darn right he's that guy. We can show you. Well, actually, we'll show you that graphic in just a second. But Caleb Williams yesterday against the Jacksonville Jaguars, albeit they've won one game this year. Get that. But Caleb Williams, 23 of 29, 226 yards. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 touchdowns through the air. He did have an interception. By the way, 56 yards rushing as well. QBR 0 to 100 of 88 and a passer rating of 124. And on that note, in terms of passer rating, Alpha put together this great graphic. Let's see what Caleb has done in terms of passer rating week by week. Oh, he's basically gotten better. 55 rating in week 1, 51 week 2. Then it goes to 80, 106, 126, and kind of stays right there. It's hard to get much better than 126, on a consistent basis. 124 yesterday passer rating did Caleb Williams have against the Jacksonville Jaguars yesterday. What I saw, what you saw, what the country saw yesterday morning, listen, he's not going to go throw for 4 touchdowns every game. That's the guy Chicago is hoping for. Now, listen, I love Justin Fields. Justin Fields has been really, really productive for my Steelers, at least within the context, within the confines of the Arthur Smith offense. Justin's been really good. Thought he played well enough to beat the Colts. Didn't play well enough to beat Dallas. Justin Fields has been excellent. I am adamant he needs to be the starter over Russell Wilson. He can't do what this kid can do. I remember in March when it was, you got to keep Justin Fields. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? When you have an opportunity to draft this guy? I remember talking about Caleb Williams, and you saw it yesterday. He's an A+ at almost everything. Arm strength, arm angles, accuracy, deep ball accuracy, all that, decision-making. And the thing that drove me up a wall when it came to the Caleb Williams discussion. Maturity. And by the way, I'm big on maturity with quarterbacks. It's everything. You got to have that. I've said quarterbacks need to be about 15 years more mature than what their age actually is at quarterback, because you're basically the coach on the field. I'll get to Nick Sirianni. His quarterback's more mature than the coach. That's rare, but you need the quarterback to be mature. Do you watch Caleb Williams' post-game interviews? Giving teammates credit, taking accountability for his mistakes, right? Was first to call out his poor play in week 1 against the Titans, but was positive. He's like, hey, we won the game. I got to play better. Was positive, was upbeat after all of their wins, giving teammates credit, and after losses, taking accountability. Oh, he's not mature. Oh, paints his nails. Listen, I don't paint my nails. It's not my preferred fashion choice, but does this affect Caleb Williams' ability to play football? No, then I don't care. Paint your nails whatever you want. I don't care. As long as you're going out and dominating the way that Caleb Williams has been dominating the last 3 weeks, who cares? When you're one of the greatest quarterback talents in the history of the game of professional football, that's what you're going to put on the field on a consistent basis. Now, for Chicago, because that was a very impressive win against Jacksonville, they got a bye, then they go to Washington. That's a 1 p.m. kickoff. I'm here to tell the National Football League, what's the October 27th game, the big game? You got Eagles, Bengals, you got Chiefs, Raiders. That game, what is the game on CBS? Commanders, Bears. Flex that game to a 4:25 kick. That is Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams. The whole country deserves to see that matchup because both guys have been tremendous this year. But this is the guy I saw at USC. And by the way, remember when he took that really, really, really bad sack in week 1 against the Titans? Remember he took that? He lost 16 yards. It was a disastrous play. Noticing he's picking his spots now. Now the offensive line, part of that's because the offensive line has played better. And you've seen Caleb, because you didn't get to see this at USC a year ago, he's much, 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 much better throwing from the pocket than he got credit for. He didn't get to throw from the pocket last year because he's had to make plays outside of it because his O-line wasn't very good. And you saw that at times from the Bears this season to start the year. And we'll see if it continues. We'll see if their progression continues as an O-line. Most O-lines get better as the season goes on with the cohesiveness if they stay healthy. But he's picking and choosing his spots to make plays. He made one where he kind of rolled out to his right. Did he hit Cole Kmet? I think it was Cole Kmet, who's had a great game yesterday. When he rolled out to his right, made that play. This is the guy the Chicago Bears were hoping for. This is the guy that I and most of the national media and all the draft experts and speculative folks out there, this is what we saw. Is he going to be Patrick Mahomes? Yeah, probably not. Mahomes is already today. Man's not even in his 30s. I think he's already the second best quarterback ever. Ways to go to catch Brady, but he's already number 2 in my book. Caleb's probably not going to get there, But I said before his rookie year, by year 2, Caleb Williams will be universally regarded as a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, and I feel great about that today. Well, he's beaten Jacksonville and Carolina. The thing that's important about him, he's getting better every week. You've seen him build that connection. Remember that he didn't have a good connection with DJ Moore to start the year. They were on the same page. They're on the same page now. Keenan Allen was hurt to start the year. They've got a good rapport. Veteran receiver, rookie quarterback, it works. This is a special player. He's gonna get used to this. Get used to this. But I mean, listen, everybody's like, oh, you overrate a generational talent. Are you kidding me? Yeah, no, I'm not kidding you. There's nothing that he does not do well. Nothing. Mobility, arm strength, accuracy, ability to make plays in and outside of the pocket, make throws in and outside of the pocket. He's got a good, like that quick release, man. That ball, some zip on it. And his maturity is excellent. When that was a concern, oh, he's crying with his mama. That's not a guy you want. Oh, shut up. That's a ridiculous claim. Yeah, first time an athlete's ever cried after a loss before. Never seen it in my life, ever. First time a quarterback's ever cried after a loss. Never. He's fantastic. He's fantastic. I'm going to hold your feet to the fire here, Patrick, because he's talking about Trevor Lawrence. And listen, let's just say Trevor Lawrence is getting hard. It's getting harder and harder to defend by the day. Now, I think they'll beat New England next week. I think. Drake May looked pretty good. I think they'll beat New England next week. It's getting harder, Patrick. I don't get it. But it's funny. Patrick, bringing up Trevor Lawrence. I'm going to put this out there. Patrick, you have been a Caleb Williams skeptic. Haven't heard anything. It's been very, very quiet the last few weeks. I'm just saying. Shout out Patrick Brown. He writes some great articles for the Grid Network website. Please check his stuff out. Caleb's pretty good, Patrick. You have to admit it. I'll take the L for Trevor Lawrence. I'll take it. I ain't defending him after yesterday. But that Caleb Williams guy, whoo, it's pretty good. Really good. All right, be back. We'll take a 1-minute break. We'll be back later in the show. Wait, does Patrick by the way, Jeff, good point. Caleb is better than than Jaden Daniels too. Agree. And I love Jaden Daniels. He was one of the 3 guys I said would work in the NFL. Oh, this is the great. Thank you, Patrick. Caleb will likely win me over. That's kudos. You know what? Respect. I mean, listen, I respect people, and I try to do it myself. Like, respect folks who can admit, maybe I missed on that one. And by the way, I'm getting there on Trevor. I'm not going to still stuck yet. I'm hanging on for dear life. As hard as I can. I'm just like, I can't. It's like I saw it. It's like I saw it in 2022. I'm like, where'd that guy go? It's the same coaching staff. It's the same guy. He's healthy this year. And like at the end of last year, like, what happened? I said December 1st would be the day that I gave my final verdict for Trevor. I said that a few weeks ago, December 1st. The clock is ticking. Let's put it that way. And by the way, have you seen Jacksonville's schedule? May not be getting any better anytime soon. Doug Peterson could be gone in like 10 days or less. All right, we're going to take a 1-minute break. We'll be back to discuss the Cincinnati Bengals' big win over the Giants, as well. Nick Sirianni. Just keep making a fool out of yourself, huh? Get to that in just 1 minute. Be back on Carving Up Live. Welcome back, y'all. So I'm mad at Cleveland right now. When am I not mad at Cleveland? Or at least aggravated or irritated by Cleveland in some way? So as far as my, just in strictly win-loss, my win-loss record after week 6, I correctly predicted every single game over the weekend. Swear to God. Except for Browns-Eagles. That was my upset of the weekend. Oh, I came so close. After that block kick at the end of the first half, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get this. No. Other than that, I had a great week, but I did want to hone in this game. So the Philadelphia Eagles, off a bye, extra time to prepare against one of the worst teams of the league, facing the worst quarterback in the league. They won by 4 points at home and needed some deep balls, some magic by Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown to pull away. And this is what Nick Sirianni did in response to that. By the way, in response early in the game, there was some chants, anti-Nick Sirianni chants, and this is how he responded once the outcome was certain. You see Nick Sirianni there. He goes past his players. He's like, "Oh, I can't hear you. What do you got to say now? Hey, dude, guy in the Eagles jersey with mustard on his chest. Hey, guy. Hey, dude, what are you gonna say now, haters?" That's the head coach. The head coach, ladies and gentlemen, of the Philadelphia Eagles. That is an insecure man right there. And by the way, to make matters worse, after the Eagles put up a less than ideal performance against a terrible football team at home, Nick Sirianni's response to because we know Philly, it's a hard media in Philadelphia. The Philadelphia media is no joke. Just like Boston and New York, and it's no joke in Philadelphia. This is what he does in response to cape, or to just shield himself. Brings his kids up there. Now, Nick Sirianni, I did look this up. Nick Sirianni has brought his kids up to the podium. So, like, this is not this is an occurrence that has happened before, but I don't think it's a coincidence that he gets the chance aimed at him, and then he's going after the crowd, his own home crowd, and then he brings the kids with him at the press conference. That's a punk move. That's a clown move. To use the kids, to use children as a way to say, hey, what, you gonna go after me with a bunch of kids up here? I mean, come on, putting the onus on the media as if the media did something wrong, as if the fans did something wrong. Now, I've been critical of Philadelphia fans, but they're well within their rights to chant that they should fire a coach who has been one of the worst in the NFL, certainly within the last, it's building up to be almost a season now. Go back to week 13 of last season. Here are the worst records in the National Football League, folks. The Jaguars and Panthers, no surprise there, 2 worst teams in the league, 2-10. Patriots, no shock there, they're 3-9. And then the Philadelphia Eagles. This includes their playoff loss to Tampa Bay. The Philadelphia Eagles, since week 13 last year, had the 4th worst record in the National Football League. Worse than the Cardinals, Giants, and Commanders. This is where we're at now with Philadelphia. And it goes to something I've said about this particular coach is you want your quarterback to be mature, like it's what I talked about with Caleb Williams. And it's why the Caleb stuff, when we're like, oh, he's so immature. I thought it was absolute nonsense because we had no evidence to suggest that on a consistent basis, at least. I'll never forget this as long as I live. Kind of the flashpoint moment for Nick Sirianni, because to his credit, early in his time in Philadelphia, he put together and I gave him props for this because I don't think he's that good of a coach at all. And I think we're seeing that right now. He put together an outstanding staff. Jonathan Gannon running the defense. Philadelphia was insanely great, especially historically great in terms of sacking the quarterback in 2022. And then running the offense, Shane Steichen, who turned Jalen Hurts into can he be a franchise quarterback too? Guy almost won the MVP in the 22 season when the Eagles obviously made the Super Bowl and came that close to beating the Kansas City Chiefs in said Super Bowl. But in that game, remember that? End of the half, Nick Sirianni's challenging a play. He's looking at the big Jumbotron in Arizona. He thinks he's got the play right. And he's out there in front of the cameras, in front of hundreds of millions of people, watch the game around America, sticks his chest out, like, for reasons I can't comprehend, and it says, first down, like, he signals first down. And Jalen Hurts, like, get your arm down here. What are you doing, bruh? Jalen Hurts, the quarterback, the young guy, who statistically speaking, should be the less mature of the two. He's like, bro, come on now. We heard the reports prior to the season that Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni, what was the reports that said, Well, I mean, they don't hate each other. Well, I don't know. That doesn't seem to be a ringing endorsement for their relationship, don't you think? But more than anything, and I want the audience right now to listen into this, because I think this is very important and something, this is a projection on my part, but one that I think is going to come to fruition. Clearly, he hears the chatter and has heard the chatter for quite some time from the Eagles fans and from the Eagles media, from the Philadelphia media. And he let that out on the field in a pretty juvenile way. There will be a game this season, maybe games plural, be it a fourth down, which we've seen him butcher a bunch of fourth downs earlier this season, be it whatever the case may be, a big-time situational spot. He's either going to coach scared, play it ultra conservative, and say, coach not to lose, the old saying goes, or he's going to make, again, like the Falcons game we've seen thus far, just out of your mind, boneheaded decisions to say, I'll show you that I'm the guy. I saw that yesterday at the end of the Browns-Eagles game. I said, okay, he's not going to be the coach next year. It's gotten to his head and it's over. He showed, because he had no filter. He couldn't keep it. He couldn't help himself. Because he has not only filter, but a hold over his emotional state, clearly. He showed his players. He showed the fan base. He showed the entire NFL world. It's gotten to his head. And once that happens, it's over. Now, I think I remember predicting Nick Sirianni would get fired during the season because I didn't have Philadelphia as a playoff team in large part because don't trust Nick Sirianni, don't trust Kellen Moore. Vic Fangio's past his prime as a defensive coordinator. Jalen Hurts has had one great year. That was with Shane Steichen. Shane Steichen's now with the Colts as their head coach, obviously. This is a Philadelphia Eagles season that, off a bye, you had extra time to prepare. By the way, the motivation coming off an embarrassing. Listen, Tampa Bay's great. Tampa Bay hung 50 on the Saints here today. Tampa Bay's an unbelievable offense, but getting smoked by a Tampa Bay team that, on theory, on paper, doesn't have quite as much talent as you do. You would think the motivation come off that, as well as the extra time to prepare, if you had a good coaching staff, would result in a blowout win. But it didn't, because you're not well coached, and that's why. Nick Sirianni has no pulse of the locker room. Nick Sirianni is clearly in over his head on the shop. Listen, it's hard being a head coach of the National Football League. I'm not going to act like it isn't. But it's clearly gotten to this guy's head in a major way, and it's going to affect the Philadelphia Eagles moving forward. So they've got the Giants next week in the Meadowlands. Giants could win that. Who knows? They didn't play very well last night. Get to the Giants and Bengals in a second. Philadelphia could win that easily. But then here's Philadelphia's schedule moving forward. At the Bengals, home for the Jags. We'll see. At Dallas, Dak has owned the Eagles in his career. Home for Washington and that explosive offense. At the Rams, you have to assume the Rams will be more healthy by that point. At the Ravens, Panthers, and Steelers in that defense. At Washington, Dallas, Giants. This is why I had Philly as a 9-8, missed the playoff type of team. And I just, my ultimate takeaway, I saw that, I'm like, he's not coaching next year. It's gotten to his head. There will be points throughout the course of this season, and we've seen some of them already, where Nick Sirianni is going to either coach really scared, really conservative, because he feels the heat, he feels the weight of the city of Philadelphia on his shoulders. I've got to show him that he doesn't have it. Think Mike Vrabel's doing that yesterday? Yeah, can you imagine? Just think in your head for a moment. There's reports that Mike Vrabel could be gone in Philadelphia, and he takes his headset off the end of the game, turn around like, "Hey, what'd you say, dude?" I don't know what Nick Sirianni said. I'm just imitating him to the best of my ability. Hey, guy. Well, what do you say now, dude? We beat the Browns. Bet you think we could do that? Way in over his head. Does not know what he's doing. Let's see. Jeff, the guy is one of the worst leaders you can have as your head coach. And considering he's not the play caller type of coach, I need you to be a Dan Campbell. Great point. Motivator, leader, etc. and Sirianni has done so. What? Good point. What exactly does he do other than eat Philly subs and meatballs with Big Dom? Where's Big Dom been, by the way? Need Big Dom to get into an altercation with an elite linebacker at some point. Maybe that's coming mid-season like it did last year. But I think you make a great point, Jeff, and it's one like Dan Campbell. Great point. Dan Campbell doesn't call plays in Detroit, but like I said earlier, there's no team in the NFL that's more ready to play on a week-to-week basis than the Detroit Lions. I mean, even Kansas City will have their days where they had a couple games last year, like against the Raiders at home on Christmas, or where you're just like, oh, they weren't ready to go. Even the great coach team, the Niners will have a stinker from time to time. It's I'll tell you what, it's a mess in Philadelphia. It really is. And by the way, I really like their roster. I do. I like their personnel, but yikes. Patrick, to use a music group reference, Nick Sirianni has turned into the boy band member that nobody cares for. More of a distraction than anything. Maybe Dallas will beat them in both matchups and he'll get fired. I mean, Dallas and Philly tend to split. My guess is that's probably what they'll do this year. And for all my criticism of McCarthy, and I kind of ripped him in that first segment, he's better than Nick Sirianni. At least McCarthy does something. At least he calls plays. He's not calling very well right now, but he does something. He has a responsibility. It's a good point you made in the comments, Jeff. He does not have his team ready to play consistently. A 4-point win over the Browns. The Browns, really? Tell you what, it could get ugly. Maybe not next week because they play the Giants, although if they lose that game, maybe he's gone. He's lost that locker room. The players can put on a brave face and say, he's lost the locker room. That was what you saw yesterday was clown behavior at its finest. To Cincinnati, though, talking about the Cincinnati Bengals who beat the New York Giants in a low-scoring affair, 17-7. I will be transparent and say I was watching this on a split screen with the Dodgers and Mets game last night. I think it's going to be a compelling series. Mets in 6, by the way. But Cincinnati beats the Giants 17-7. Joe Burrow was, fine. It ran for the long touchdown. It was a great play where it's a 3rd down and long. Giants are going straight man-to-man coverage, and Joe Burrow's like, okay, well, there's obviously not going to be a spy on me because I'm Joe Burrow. I'm not Lamar Jackson in terms of with my legs. I'm just going to take off running right side. The defense is drawn to the opposite side of the field. I'm just going to scamper for a 49-yard touchdown or 47, whatever it was, a 50-yard touchdown and get an early lead. So, listen, I can say I was impressed by the Bengals defense. Lou Anarumo, who I still regard as one of the better DCs in the league. But at the same time, Daniel Jones, I think I saw he's like 1-14, 1-15 on primetime in his career. Like Daniel Jones statistically is probably the single worst quarterback in the history of the league in primetime games. So there's that. The Giants have been playing well, but I guess it was bound to come eventually. That was a gigantic win for Cincinnati for 2 reasons. Number one, if they fall to 1-5 in the AFC North, their season's over. Listen, I know Joe Burrow, in my view, is the second best quarterback in football. And listen, the Bengals defense, they owed the Bengals offense. Okay, because if that was the Bengals offense we saw last week against Baltimore, they'd have gotten beat by 35 points. It would have looked a little bit like Dallas and Detroit yesterday. But more than anything else is, not only did they save their season in the sense that they didn't drop to 1-5 in one of the toughest divisions, but they create momentum for themselves with a schedule in the next 3 weeks that I think is very favorable. Cincinnati, at Cleveland. Now, Joe Burrow struggled in his career against the Browns historically, but this ain't the same Browns that they've been the last few years. Their defense has struggled. The offensive line's beat up. They haven't been very good this year. Myles Garrett's doing all he can, trying to block kicks. Kudos to him, but the Browns just aren't the same defensively, and God knows they have the worst quarterback in football. So the Bengals have the Browns, okay? Then they got Philadelphia and that god-awful defense with the terrible coaching staff. And then you got the Las Vegas Raiders on your home field. We could be looking up on November 4th, and the Cincinnati Bengals have a record of 5-4, and they're right back in business. Now, knock on wood, Joe Burrow continues to stay healthy, but I thought that was I think the Bengals would have rather won the way they won last night than won a game similar to like they tried to win against the Commanders or against the Baltimore Ravens. Is that we know they're explosive offense. We know they have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and all those weapons. Can you win a game where your offense just doesn't have it? Where, by the way, the Giants, some of this, we got to credit the Giants. Giants have a really talented defense. That they're up front, their defensive line. Can I make a case it's top 5 in the league? I think they're phenomenal up front, the Giants are, in the terms of their offensive line. They're really talented. They just do not have that explosiveness offensively. That goes without saying, and that they need to draft a quarterback in 2025. But I think the Bengals would have rather won like that, to where the defense can build that confidence and say, hey, if the offense doesn't have it today, Hendrickson and company, we can get the job done. And being able to win that game on the road, coming off of a devastating home loss to the Ravens in a game that you probably should have won, especially with the double-digit lead with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. With that schedule moving forward, I mean, the quarterback's going to play. Deshaun Watson, Jalen Hurts is solid, and Aiden O'Connell / Gardner Minshew. Pick your backup. So kudos to the Bengals. That was as a Steelers fan, obviously I'm pulling for the Giants. Want to create as much separation with Cincinnati as he can, but that was, listen, it wasn't aesthetically pleasing to say the very least. There wasn't any scoring, I think, up until the third quarter after the Joe Burrow touchdown run. Big win for Cincinnati. They saved their season in the sense they didn't fall to 1-5 in a brutal division. Not only that, their schedule is favorable moving forward. And again, part of the reason I liked the Bengals before the season is that not only because they had Burrow and all these guys, they had a fourth place schedule. Like, that's the thing that kind of went under the radar for the Bengals is we know how great Baltimore was last season. Cleveland had a successful year. Pittsburgh snuck into the playoffs last season. Because of the injury to Burrow and they kind of floundered down the stretch, they got a fourth place schedule. So we'll see what Cincinnati does, but that was really big for them. Also too, Patrick, interesting. He says, non-NFL question, your thoughts on your former dub. I can't really acknowledge him that much as a dub. He's only there for a year. Dante DiVincenzo barking at Rick Brunson, who's Jalen Brunson's dad. He's going to take it personal when both teams meet in the regular season. Yeah, so for those that didn't see it, NBA preseason's going on right now. There was a game last night at MSG. I don't think I've ever seen as many social media posts from an NBA preseason game in my entire life. But hey, maybe it's a precursor for what's going to be a great NBA season. We could certainly use that because the playoffs last year were a snooze. But that said, Timberwolves, Knicks, we know the trade that happened. Karl-Anthony Towns dealt to the Knicks. DiVincenzo was traded to Minnesota, as was Julius Randle, who I think is making his preseason debut pretty soon. And reportedly, the reason that DiVincenzo was kind of the big part of the deal is that he didn't like the role that he was going to play on a Knicks team that brought back OG Anunoby, that was trying to add Karl-Anthony Towns, but added Mikal Bridges was kind of the big one, is that DiVincenzo was like, okay, I'm going to have a reduced role. I think I'm kind of coming to my own as an important NBA player. I want a chance to play elsewhere. And he and Rick Brunson were barking. Listen, I don't think it's, I can't, when do the Knicks and Timberwolves play in their regular season? I'm actually kind of curious about that because I think we know the Villanova connection and the Nova Knicks was going to be a thing this year. When did the Knicks play I'm going to type it in my computer right now, see when they play later this season. Their first game, as far as what I'm seeing right now, is December 19th, and then they play at Madison Square Garden on January 17th. So 17th, is that a Friday? That's a Friday. So that's a Friday night game, MSG, Timberwolves, Knicks. Knock on wood, everybody's healthy for that one because that'll be good NBA theater. Listen, we need a little bit more rivalries, which Timberwolves, Knicks is, I guess, a weird thought for a rivalry, but hey, I mean, if the Timberwolves have more pieces, it could be a finals preview, but I just don't think they have it. If they had Kevin Durant, I may feel differently. Because I think that might actually be in their thoughts and goals with this deal. Because we know Kevin Durant, Anthony Edwards are tight. I don't know. It's not. Don't discount that possibility. By the way, the Dodgers have cut it to 3. It's 6-3 Mets, bottom of the 8th inning. Dodgers down to their last 6 outs. So, like I said, I had Mets in 6 in the series. In large part, listen, I said I didn't trust the Dodgers pitching, but up until Francisco Lindor hit a leadoff homer yesterday, they went 33 consecutive scoreless innings, did the Dodgers. So kudos to them. They have been unbelievable in that front. But a lot of baseball is postseason baseball is pitching and vibes. I don't know if long-term I totally trust the Mets in terms of their pitching, but vibes, oh my gosh, they couldn't be higher. The Grimace thing, Lindor's played unbelievable. The way they won game 161, the way they beat the Brewers in game 3 with Pete Alonso saving the day, the Lindor grand slam against Philadelphia. Like there's always that one team in the playoffs every year where it's like just something feels, it sounds kind of cheesy, but something feels kind of special, kind of magical about this team. That's kind of how I feel about the Mets. There's something, there's a saying, same old Mets, but there's something different about this year. Now, I may look back at this week from now, I'm like, oh, that was a dumb take. Same old Mets. I don't think so. I'm not saying they're going to win the World Series, but then the Dodgers, to me, clearly have the better roster. But I'm telling you what, if they lock this one up, they split in LA, if they could be able to take 2 of 3 in Queens, which I think they will, close out in Game 6 in Dodger Stadium, which I think they will. Listen, here's what I know, and then we'll get to Week 6 NFL recap. Here's what I know. Whoever wins this series, and I'm pulling for the Mets, because obviously my guys Barry Gret Jr., Alfred Parslow Jr. are diehard Mets fans. So listen, Mets, Red Sox, we're allies. I'm a Red Sox fan, obviously. Mets, Red Sox, there's an allyship going on there because of our mutual hate of the Yankees. But regardless of who wins, Mets, Dodgers, oh my gosh, am I putting on one of those 2 teams' caps, proverbially at least, based on whoever wins the American League. It's a lose-lose for me, folks. It's the New York Yankees against the Cleveland Guardians. A team I hate against a city whose sports teams I hate across the board. I cannot live in a world where the Yankees and their obnoxious fan base finally took them a while getting a title, first time in 15 years, or Cleveland, who's won 1 title since the Johnson administration, getting another one, first time I think since the 40s. No, I can't. No. Listen, it would be a fun World Series. Listen, Mets, Yankees, we saw the Subway Series before back in 01. I think it was back in 01 if I remember correctly. But if I remember reading, the ratings weren't great because it was just one city for the series. Listen, we'll see, but pulling for the Mets. If the Dodgers beat them, I'm pulling for the Dodgers in the World Series. Whoever wins the AL, screw them. Screw them. I ain't pulling for Cleveland. Pulling for the Yankees. You kidding me? Heck no. All right. Week 6 NFL recap. Let's look at the other games I didn't get a chance to talk about. Texans blowing out the Patriots 41-21 yesterday. I think we kind of all saw this coming. CJ Stroud was unbelievable. Pass rating of 100. Joe Mixon, a couple of touchdowns in the game. He was really good. I liked what I saw from Drake May. Matter of fact, I really liked what I saw from Drake May. So I had a little bit of skepticism coming in this game in the sense that, okay, I'm cool with them playing Drake May this season. I just don't know if I pick the Houston Texans as his debut. Now it's at home. I get that. But Houston's got a great defense, and Drake May's pretty good. 3 touchdowns, pass rating of 88. It's nothing to go crazy about, but for a debut, it's pretty good against a defense like that. So, listen, completion percentage, fine. 20 of 33, 243, 3 touchdowns. He did have 2 picks. Drake May's going to throw interceptions. Rookie quarterbacks throw picks. They're trying to work their way, into the NFL, get comfortable with the speed of the game, with the playbook, all that. But I think it's safe to say Drake May is going to be the guy for New England moving forward. Who the Patriots? The Patriots are the Jaguars. I mean, that's again, it's 2 one-win teams. I'm sorry, that's a fascinating Sunday morning game. So you got the Jaguars where it's hey, if they lose this game, Doug Peterson's gone. Trevor Lawrence there's all kinds of flack, in large part deservedly so, towards him. And as for the Patriots, it's, hey, Drake May's first game, standalone game in front of the whole country. See what he's got. So I was actually quite impressed. This was not listen, New England wasn't going to win a lot of games anyway. So this is a season for New England when you got to eat the chicken, spit out the bones, so to speak. Like, you got to try and find the positives, something you can build off of and be able to develop as you try and rebuild what Belichick left you and what mess he left you. Kudos to Drake May. I was very impressed yesterday. Ravens beat the Commanders. This was one of my if I were a Batman games. I took the Commanders +7. Turns out it ended up being a wash. Ravens won this game 30-23. Derrick Henry was Derrick Henry. 24 carries, $132, 2 touchdowns. If you look at Derrick Henry this season, first in carries, first in yards, first in touchdowns. I mean, what do you want me to do? I thought he would lose a step in the sense that he's a 30-year-old running back. Those guys don't tend to get better as time goes on. But you know what we got to do with guys like Derrick Henry? He's an anomaly. He's an exception to the rule. Yeah, most running backs don't get better at 30, but most running backs aren't Derrick Henry. So I guess should have taken that more into account. Lamar Jackson played pretty well. Listen, I thought that was, for Washington to be able to go on the road, fight Baltimore tooth and nail. Baltimore is an established organization, great coach, great quarterback, great running back. I still don't like Baltimore's defense, and I think that's going to be a thorn in their side for many games to come. Kudos to Washington for fighting the way they did. I was very impressed by the Commanders in the spot against the Ravens. Let's see. Jeff. Bryson, Mike Renner is a nutcase. He did a 2023 NFL redraft, and he was doing it And he still took Bryce Young over CJ Stroud, and Bryce Young over Will Anderson, Devon Witherspoon, and still the number 1 pick. WTF. Listen, I'm willing to give Bryce Young a chance elsewhere, but that's one of the dumbest takes I've ever heard in my life. You get a mulligan and you still take Bryce. Like, bro, get out of here. Already talked about Eagles, Browns. Packers blew out the Cardinals. This is also one of my if I were a betman games. Felt good about this one. Arizona, big, emotional division win against the Niners. Kudos to them. But you got to go to the East Coast, to Lambeau Field. They're more like the middle of the country, but it's a long flight to Lambeau, where the Packers have been, really, really good offensively. Jordan Love has kind of found his rhythm. Romeo Doubs, we know there were some issues, some maturity stuff last week. Romeo Doubs was good in this game. I'm telling you, I saw a tweet yesterday, and I'm like, yeah, I said this before the year. Green Bay has the deepest wide receiving core in football. I don't think there's any question about it. Watson, Dobbs, Wicks, Jaden Reed, they got 2. One of the tight ends are hurt. I think Musgrove is hurt. But you got Tucker Kraft. You've got Josh Jacobs. This is a really talented offensive team. Jordan Love with 4 touchdowns yesterday was fantastic. Packers ran for $179. So, as for Arizona, this is kind of what I thought they'd be this season, where they'd be fun to watch. Marvin Harrison Jr. is part of the reason I said that, and he got hurt yesterday, so knock on wood for him. But Marvin Harrison Jr., Kyler Murray, they're going to create some highlights. It'll be a fun watch. But something that you can trust to be a playoff team in NFC this stacked? Absolutely not. Green Bay, yes. And that's what they showed you yesterday. Tampa put 50 on the Saints. So they won 51-27. Spencer Rattler, did all he could. Ended up having a passer of 160. I'm sorry, 160. That's not even possible. 60 in this game. Baker Mayfield. Listen, he had a bunch of picks in the first half. Rebounded in the second half. This Tampa offense is something, man. They've this year, the Buccaneers offense, let's go over it. Scored 37 on Washington, 20 on Detroit, but they moved the ball pretty effectively against the Lions in the first half. Only scored 7 against the Broncos, but since then, 33 against Philly, 30 against Atlanta, 51 against the Saints. So when we talk about the best offenses, Detroit, Washington, you got to include Tampa Bay in that conversation. Baltimore, that is a Baker's dealing. Baker's playing really good football. Got to cut back on the turnovers, which, he was able to do in the second half, but kudos to him. Old man Joe keeps doing it. Joe Flacco, 2 touchdown passes against the Titans yesterday. Will Levis threw another pick at a pass ring in the 60s. Why are we not surprised? He's not very good. Good win for the Colts. Chargers, to a certain, I don't want to say my Chargers because I say my Steelers because they're my favorite team, obviously. I love the Lions. I have for years. Love what they build over there. The Lions are like the stepchild to a certain degree, where it's like the Steelers are my kid. By birth, obviously. The Lions are my adoptive child. I've called them my adoptive team for a while. And the Chargers are the step kid. And obviously, oftentimes the step kid gets overlooked or gets a bad rep. There's nothing wrong with that. Hey, listen, there's a lot of step kids out there that are great human beings and great kids. I think the Chargers are that. That was my bold prediction for the year. I thought they'd make the AFC title game. They didn't play very good second half. Jim Harbaugh, by the way, health scare in the first half. No surprise what he said after the game. He said, man, my heart will have to stop for me to walk away from football. But, prayers for Jim Harbaugh. Hopefully he's okay. But built that 23-0 lead. Bo Nix made a nice little rally at the end, but it was too far out of reach for Denver. So good win for the Chargers. Also one of my if I were a betman games. So that's two straight winning weeks for me. So I feel good. Atlanta beating Carolina 38-20. No shock there. Kirk was great. Bijan Robinson, did his thing. Couple touchdowns in this game. Atlanta's got one of the most explosive offensive leagues. So, no surprise there. And finally, before we get to predictions for tonight, Steelers get the W, score 30. What did we do yesterday? Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. And I'll tell you what, that was, listen, I thought we beat Vegas. I thought we'd cover against Vegas. I felt good about it. Listen, I knew that there'd be more Steelers fans there than Raiders fans because that happened last year. The Steelers fans traveled very well when we played them in week 3 a year ago on Sunday Night Football. That was literally, did they take the stadium in Pittsburgh and fly it across the country to Vegas and just transplant it there with the fans already in their seats? That was the images yesterday. Go to the Steelers Instagram account. It's insane. There's hold on, give me the towel here. There's terrible towels everywhere. There's black and gold across the stadium. It was something to see. But as for the game itself, Najee Harris was unbelievable. 14 carries, a $106, averaged 7.8 yards per carry, including a I don't want to say a beast mode like touchdown run, but he's running in between the tackles, breaks free, runs down the sideline, keeps his feet, dives into the end zone. There's a closing safety, dives in the end zone from the 5-yard line, gets it across, slams it on the goal line. That's why I knew we were probably going to get the job done. So Justin Fields was solid, ran for a couple touchdowns this game, 59 yards rushing for him. TJ Watt. Are there enough adjectives to describe this guy, honestly? I mean, the guy, Pro Football Focus, folks, gave him a out of 100. Obviously, that's how grades work. You get a best grade you can get was 100. TJ Watt got a 99 passing grade or pass rush grade against the Vegas Raiders. He had not one, but 2 forced fumbles, including one on the 1-inch line for the Raiders. It looks like Vegas is going to punch it in early in the fourth quarter, make it a 1-score game. Here we go. We may have something. And TJ Watt like Mike Tyson, just punches that thing out. From the Raiders back, Steelers recover, take the momentum from there. Aiden O'Connell wasn't very good. Aiden O'Connell's a backup. The Raiders aren't a very good football team. Max Crosby needs to go to Detroit. Really liked what I saw from my Steelers, and something else for Pittsburgh as well that's really, really, really big. Okay? The next 3 weeks for Pittsburgh. Got a home game against the middling Jets. On primetime, by the way. Then he got another home game against the middling Giants, the back-to-back New York teams, back-to-back primetime games, back-to-back at home, and then he got a bye. So the Steelers could be in a really good spot if you take care of these 2 games. And this is what I said about the Steelers before the year. And I had us missing the playoffs. I had Tomlin keeping the no-losing season partly because I thought Russell was going to be the starter and he'd be fine. And he'd have some really rough outings and some okay ones in the defense. And TJ Watt would... Listen, the Steelers are, I'm certainly not willing to say they're a Super Bowl contender right now, but whatsoever. They don't have the offensive firepower to do that. If they had Devontae Adams, I may feel differently. This defense is insane. And by the way, y'all crushing Dak today, and Dak did not play well yesterday, but this, to me, seeing the Steelers continuously over and over makes the Cowboys win last week over the Steelers. In particular, Dak Prescott's performance all the more impressive. But 2 games against the Jets and Giants, bye week, then you go to Washington. Steelers in good shape. They're in really good shape. Tied for Baltimore at the top of the division. Steelers are in a good spot. All right, we'll be back in a minute to protect Jets and Bills. Take 1 minute break on Carving It Up Live, if I can talk today, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, y'all. Carving Up Live. Going to predict one more game before we get out of here to close week 6. You got the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets. I do see a comment here from Jeff. He says, OMG, Watt against an old Rodgers with a decent O-line. A decent O-line for Watt is like the worst ever. Oh, yeah, and a new head coach. My God, I almost feel bad for Rodgers. Oh, listen. TJ Watt is sitting right now. Maybe he's getting an ice bath after a great performance yesterday against the Raiders. No surprise, TJ Watt's the best defensive player in football. He is licking them chops for the Jets next week. Oh my gosh. 3 sacks? 7 sacks? I mean, listen, who knows? I mean, the guy could break the single-game sack record for all we know. He's going to have a field day, Jeff. A field day against the Jets. Speaking of those Jets, they play the Bills tonight once again, like I said, on a big Monday night matchup. Winner is in first place in the AFC East. Here we go. Interesting line move here. So we have this, the line set is going to say either, Bills -1 or Jets +1. I'll get to my prediction in just a second. But here on ESPN, the line has moved to Bills -1.5, which I find kind of odd because about a half hour ago, we got news. I see on my Twitter feed, James Cook, running back for the Bills, is out tonight. So I don't know. Maybe I missed something as far as the Jets injury report. I've been checking it. There's nothing that sticks out to me in the sense that it's a devastating loss for the Jets. But James Cook, that's a big loss for Buffalo. He's out for this game. So this is going to have to be kind of a Josh Allen superhero type of game, which scares me a little bit. Because you could either get 5 touchdowns or you could get 3 to 4 interceptions or completing 30% of your passes like last week. But if there's one thing that I know about Josh Allen, it's that when he's playing great, and I mean great, like he was the first 3 games when Buffalo started 3-0, the bad game's coming. The almost unwatchably bad game is coming, and we saw it last week against the Texans, and to a lesser degree, he wasn't great against the Ravens, but he wasn't horrendous against Baltimore 2 weeks ago. But in the same instance, when it rains, it pours is kind of how it goes for Josh Allen. When he's playing poorly, that explosion is coming. Now, I don't think that's going to be tonight because I think the Jets have a great defense. Listen, I didn't believe in the Jets this year. I thought they'd be a 7-9 team for a number of reasons, in large part because the Jets defense, and some, depending on what stats you look at, were excellent last year, and depending on some other stats you look at, they were good. They were productive, but they weren't special. They were on the level of like the Chiefs or like any great defense, Baltimore last year, any defense like that. And so the Jets are great defense. The numbers bear it out. They're top 5 in just about everything. Josh Allen's going to have his struggles, but I think he's going to do his thing tonight. He's going to have to without James Cook. But as for the Jets, so Vegas really likes the Jets, or at least bettors really like the Jets in this spot because, hey, interim head coach, teams with an interim head coach tend to be really good. They tend to have a winning record throughout the history, at least recent history, of the National Football League. That's fine. Here's what I know. And we pulled up, we can show you what Aaron Rodgers has done this season. He's been terrible. 19th in pass yards per game, 18th in TD to INT ratio, 26th in completion, 29th in yards per pass, 26th in passer rating, 21st in QBR, and the Jets coming in this week, 25th in team points per game. But I did this little montage on Friday's show, but it wasn't live. The show was not live on Friday, so I might as well go ahead and roll the tape live. The most recent quarterbacks, every quarterback in the NFL that has thrown for 300 yards more recently than one Aaron Rodgers, who has not done it since week 14 of the 2021 season. And we're going to ride this horse until it is ready to come to a stop or needs a breather, because it's just going to keep going. Most recent quarterbacks to throw for 300 yards more recently than Aaron Rodgers. Let's see who they are. Let's see, we've got Andy Dalton, we got Bailey Zappi, we've got Baker Mayfield, has thrown for 300 more recently than Aaron. You got Brock Purdy, you got Bryce Young, for crying out loud. CJ Stroud, of course, no surprise there. Caleb Williams doing his thing, he's thrown for 300, as has Carson Wentz, as has Dak Prescott. Daniel Jones thrown for 300, he was terrible last night. Freaking Davis Mills has done it, Derek Carr has done it. Desmond Ridder has thrown for 300 yards more recently than Aaron Rodgers. Gardner Minshew, Geno Smith, Jacoby Brissett, who just got benched. Jake Browning, who's a backup. Jalen Hurts, who hasn't played well, has done it. Jameis Winston, who should play right now, by the way. Jared Goff obviously has done it. So has Jarrett Stidham. So is Jimmy Garoppolo, has done it more recently than Aaron. And Joe Burrow and Joe Flacco and Jordan Love, who was great yesterday. Josh Allen, who's playing tonight. You got Josh Johnson. Justin Fields has done it. Justin Herbert's done it. Kenny Pickett has thrown for 300 yards more recently than Aaron. Then you got Kirk Cousins, Kyler Murray. Lamar Jackson's done it more recently than Aaron, as has Mac Daddy Jones, for crying out loud. Matt Ryan, who's retired. Matt Stafford, who might be soon. Mike White, who's a backup. Who's that? Nick Mullins. PJ Walker, who's a third stringer. Patrick Mahomes, obviously. Russell, who's a backup. Tannehill, who doesn't have a job right now in the NFL. Sam Darnold has thrown for 300. Sam Howell has thrown for 300. Teddy Bridgewater, who's retired, has thrown for 300. Tom Brady has done it more recently. Trevor, who everybody hates, has done it. Tua's done it. Tyrod Taylor, his backup's done it more recently than Aaron. Will Levis has done it. And Zach Wilson, who was the starter last year, all those guys have thrown for 300 yards more recently than Aaron Rodgers. Whew! So I get that out there. And so for that reason, give me the Buffalo Bills to win this game. They definitely cover the 1-point spread there. 23-16. It's a divisional matchup. Those games are always close. The Jets are inept offensively. Why on earth? Listen, I get that Hackett isn't calling plays anymore. It doesn't matter. They don't have the personnel. Rodgers isn't good anymore. The offensive line is average on a good day. Give me the Bills in this matchup, 23-16 over the New York Football Jets. So I want to throw that out there. Let's see. Jeff, what would be some of your favorite over-unders on player props for this game off the top of your head? Breece Hall has got to get going. He's one of the best running backs in the league. Can he get 60 yards in this game? I'll say yes. I think he had over, if memory serves me correctly, I think he had over 60 against Buffalo in that infamous week 1 game, the Monday night game where Aaron Rodgers unfortunately tore his Achilles. I'm almost certain Brees got over 60 last year. I'll say he does. He's due for that breakout. I don't think Brees is as good as everybody makes him out to be. I'll say Brees Hall with the over there. I'm not aware of any other over-unders. If you're going to say Josh Allen over under 275 passing yards, I'd probably take the over because there's no James Cook. So that's probably what I'd do. What's the over-under point total? 41.5. So do the math. I have the under in this game. I think Buffalo's defense is going to do what it needs to do. Aaron Rodgers and the Jets are going to do nothing, but the Jets have a great defense. So Buffalo will have their struggles against a defense like that without James Cook, but I'll go with the Bills 23-16. I feel good about that. I feel really, really good about that. Oh, Jeff. Okay. Josh Allen 206 is what they got. Yeah, definitely over 100%. And the Jets have a great defense, but that's not even a shot at the Jets as far as taking him well over the over. It's more than anything is he's going to be their offense tonight. I mean, he could have, who knows, he could have 80, 85 rushing yards and a touchdown. Like, that wouldn't shock me either. So, yeah, definitely feel good about Buffalo in this spot in the Meadowlands. With that said, that is all the time I have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by as always. Be sure to catch Carving Up Live on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on Facebook, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. Of course, be sure to like, share, comment, and please take 2 seconds out of your day. Hit that big red subscribe button down there. It helps the channel grow exponentially. The next goal for us, we got to 1,000 subscribers back in May. The next goal is to get to 5,000 subscribers. So if you've not subscribed to the show, again, just takes a couple seconds. Down there, hit that big subscribe button and boom, you're part of the Carving It Up family. If you have subscribed, thank you so much. Please tell your friends about it, your family about it, everybody you know about Carving Up Live, except for your sleeping cat. Nealon has been getting into trouble lately. Nealon, you got to chill. I know you're hyped that Tennessee beat Florida, but brother, relax, okay? Relax. You can be a little rambunctious little guy. Also, just as importantly, be sure to go subscribe to the Grid Network. That is GRYD, the Grid Podcast Network, right here on YouTube, as well as any and everywhere that you get your favorite podcast, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, any and everywhere that you get your favorite podcast. You can find us on the Grid Network, where we dare to be different. Patrick Brown writes some great articles. You saw him in the comments tonight. Write some great articles for the Grid's website. As far as our other content creators, check us out on all audio streaming platforms, on YouTube, on the Grid Network. Check us out. 8 o'clock spot tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific, on the Grid's YouTube channel. I'm the host / judge / moderator. We're having a great show tomorrow with a lot of NFL stuff, maybe some Major League Baseball topics. Very, very excited about that. Listen, I didn't pick the ALCS on the show today. I don't know. Who do I hate less? Who do I want fall to hurt more, Cleveland or the Yankees? I'll say Cleveland. So I'll say Cleveland Guardians in 6 against the Yankees. So Mets in 6, Guardians in 6. We're in the Mets-Guardians World Series. Feel great about the Mets pick. Not sure how I feel about Guardians-Yankees, but listen, the Guardians have an excellent pitching staff. The Yankees, I don't trust them consistently to be able to get outs when they absolutely need it, albeit the Guardians, they're an opportunistic offense for sure. We saw that in Game 5 against Detroit. We'll see what happens. So Guardians, I guess. Listen, whoever wins the ALCS, I am pulling hard against them in the World Series. So give me the Mets in 6. If the Dodgers win, then I'm pulling for the Dodgers. But Mets, good vibes, like them. All right. I will see you guys on Wednesday. Please be sure to stay safe out there. Please be sure to take care of your physical as well as your mental health. And please be sure to contact your local state representatives and senators to demand change for gun violence in America. Doesn't matter where you lean, right, left, center. This is an issue that impacts every single one of us on a day-to-day basis in this country. And no matter what any sort of gaslighting you hear, oh, it's not a problem. Oh, there's only one solution to the problem. Both are BS. Both are not true. It's a huge problem that needs a number of detailed and, nuanced solutions to solve it. And listen, we got an election in 3 weeks. First of all, get out there and vote. It's our civic duty as American citizens. A lot of people died for that right to vote. Let's get out there and vote and do our civic duty in this country. But keep in mind as you go to the polls, anybody on the ballot that shows no sense of urgency to addressing this, we got to vote them out. Okay, you got to vote them out or vote against them in general, because we got to protect the people in this beautiful nation. See you on Wednesday. Got Bryce's Best 10. Got Carving Up the Context. We're going to talk Jets, Bills. My guess, the Jets are going to lose. They're going to be Aaron Rodgers going to say something on McAfee. It's going to be a lot to talk about. So stay tuned for that. 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific time, carving it up on Wednesday. We got the 8 o'clock spot tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific. Please tune in for both if you have time. We will see you then. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. Steel City, baby. Travel to Sin City. That's what I'm talking about. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.